And good Saturday morning, January the 11th, 2025. David and Chuck show with Coach 8. We got Jonathan and Chuck. Good morning, Jonathan. Good morning, Chuck. How are you guys?
Good morning.
Doing well.
Okay. Chuck, we good? You and I good?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I need to know. We did not get the weather that they talked about. I'm going to whine about that for just a second because we certainly did not get that here. I know in other parts they got a lot of snow, I guess, but boy, we sure didn't. We got some ice, and I'm stuck up here on the mountain for a while today. But boy, it was not the snowmageddon that the social media and the internet said we were going to get. But I guess the Ingles made a lot of money yesterday and the day before. Because how much bread and milk do you have, Jonathan and Chuck?
We went shopping 2 days ago. Angel went shopping yesterday. So we got a pantry full of bread. We got 2 and a little over 2 gallons of milk. We got plenty of food, but we're not, just the ice and everything. It'll sometime this afternoon. I don't know if I'll get to the movie theater at 12, but
yeah,
trying to take Trey to a movie. But as you said, we didn't get, they're 3 to 6 inches. And I thought, we're going to get 2. We probably got a little over 2 inches looking outside.
Yeah. They said we were going to get, from what I always kept hearing, was 4 to 5. I may have 1. But hey, snow, it is what it is. But it wasn't what they said.
Yeah. So everybody stay safe today. Ice is nothing to play with. Be careful if you're driving around. And if you can stay home until the sun gets on it just a little bit. Anyway, college football semifinal number 2 last night. Ohio State and Texas. My observations of the game were really even. First half, Texas hung in there, got the touchdown, tied the score, had all the momentum, and literally lost the game in 10 seconds right after that. After that, I don't know that I think they were shell-shocked, even though they had a chance to go down and score and tied it there at the end. The better team won. And I'm going to 28-14 is the final score. It's scrolling across our tracker at the bottom. I'm going to throw it to you two, and because I was dealing with Spectrum on my internet issues for a lot of the game too. So I'm going to throw it to you two. I'm going to let you guys talk about the football game and where you saw what you saw. So have at it, men.
Depends on which way you want to go with it. We can sit here and say that it was a lackluster game, was not that exciting, because it was not that exciting at all for a while. Jeremiah Smith only had 1 catch for 3 yards. Carnell Tate, who I've talked about for a while, for the past month or so, of being he's their 3rd receiver. He's most teams' number 1. He's their 3rd, so that tells you their depth. But it was kudos to Texas on defense for showing a blueprint on how to stop Jeremiah Smith. Honestly, make the other guys beat you, because let's think about it, though. As much as I've been very adamant about and very upfront and all that about how good Ohio State's receiving core is, let's see. Give me a second. Carnell Tate, 87 yards receiving. Egbuka, 51 yards receiving. Neither one of them had a touchdown. Travion Henderson was the 2nd leading receiver as a running back, but that was a screen. So they didn't really – they played well enough, but they didn't play lights out at all. And then Texas, their O-line, their up-front O-line just got manhandled by 4-man pressures all night. Quinn Ewers did not look comfortable in the pocket at all. It looked like he was essentially playing just to get the game over with rather than playing to win the game sometimes. I wasn't overly impressed with that aspect of it. But then you can go the opposite direction and say, kudos to the coordinators for their game plans on the defensive side of the ball, not necessarily offensively, but on the defensive side of the ball. Kudos to the game plans. Because after the first drive for Ohio State, they didn't really do a whole lot until the screen, the screen for a touchdown with 20 seconds left in the half. They didn't really do much after that, after the first drive. It was the game that I hyped it up. I was expecting this, and this, and all this stuff, and all these points, and blah blah blah. I'm going to say it was one of the bottom tier games of the playoffs.
Yep.
Just from the game itself.
Chuck?
Johnson's correct on all that. What drove me nuts last night, two things. Everything what he said, I agree with. It's a great spot on analysis. The drop passes drove me nuts out of Ohio State. Absolutely drove me nuts. And the second thing was the excessive penalties. Every drive, penalty after penalty. If you want a blueprint of how to screw up a game, they're lucky they didn't lose it, is that get excessive penalties. And these are penalties that not in, most of them are not in question about the referee's calls, if it's a different conference way of doing things. These are movement penalties. This is illegal motion. This is holding. I mean, out there, that right tackle going and doing a WWF body slam on the guy. I mean, some of the stuff you're sitting there going, what are you guys thinking? I thought Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator at Ohio State, called a horrible game.
Outside the first drive.
Out of the first drive, correct, John.
First drive, I liked what he was doing.
But from that point on, it's like, what are you doing? And which was fine with me because I was rooting for Texas. But the beauty of the game was everybody talking leading up to the game about how great, and he walked on water, Jeremiah Smith, and Texas secondary took him out of the game.
They did.
And I thought, okay, where do you go now? You know, you saw what happened, like getting up off of a tackle, Henderson getting up off of the tackle. Yeah, the guy said something, but just, and then he
punches him in the face.
What are you doing? So I see how Michigan beat Ohio State because it was excessive penalties. They were lucky. Ohio State was lucky that Texas did not take advantage of that as much as they did, but didn't have enough.
So they, what I said a minute ago, I probably misspoke when I was talking about it really not being in the ball game. They were in the ball game.
Right.
And in the second half, I agree with.
Well, hold on. Let me say they were in the ball game, but it felt like they were not in the ball game.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but in the second half, I do agree with what you were saying, and I saw Chuck shake his head in agreement. I'm the dad of a quarterback that was, cheered by 100,000 people and booed by 100,000 people. You know what I mean? I understand that position. I'm not going to throw off on yours because I think that he played under duress from the opening snap on. I think that the Ohio State's defensive line was just better than Texas's offensive line, and therein lies the difference in the football game, in my opinion. I thought the kid hung in there. The strip at the end when they're going in to score, that's just a football play. I go back to the 4 or 5 plays before that. Man, you got to score from the 1. You got to score from the 1. That's not on the quarterback. You got to score from the 1. They didn't. That play happened. And then the pick at the end is just, man, the guy's just trying to make a play. So I'm not going to put last night on the quarterback for Texas. Now you guys might disagree with me, but I certainly don't.
Well, no, and I'm not saying it's on one player. I'm saying he played like he didn't want to be there. He didn't play fast. He didn't play with emotion. He didn't play. And I know that it's the old cool, calm, and collected mindset. I get that. But everything seemed – they even said it in the broadcast, and we also understand that Kurt Herbstreit is not fun to listen to, whatever. But what I'm like, they even said it. It's like he's seeing everything's – it was his first start last night from the way he was playing. Everything moved way too fast for him last night. You could see that. It wasn't the movement of a third-year consecutive every game starter, played in the playoff last year. It wasn't that movement in his vision with his eyes. That was not how he played last night. It is what it is. That was not the – and it was the same thing from the Penn State game. Everybody – I saw all these memes are like, oh, well, with Carson Beck not going to the draft and this, would y'all take Drew Allard 3 overall? No, he's a 7th-round quarterback to me, if that, because of the way he plays. He's a 50% completion percentage guy, and he makes a DA throw or 2 every game. Quinn Ewers has not been that guy, and he played that way last night, though. Not with the dumb throws, but just the speed of which he saw things. It almost felt like the only time he hit the receiver, if they were wide open like he did on Blue, the running back on the tailback rail when they blitzed and nobody was on him, hit him perfectly. But the first third down of the game, they run a little fake mesh concept. It's man-to-man coverage. You're going to tell me that you're supposed to be an elite 3-year starting quarterback of the only team returning from last year's playoffs. You're the only team returning to the playoff this year. And so you're supposed to be that level guy, and you throw it at his feet on the first third down, and he's running, and it's your best receiver, Matthew Golden, on a linebacker. You can't do that. You can't do that. That's my issue with how Ewers played last night. I've been an advocate for Ewers, but I will also call it like it is every game. And last night, you can look at the stats: 23 of 39, 283, and 2 touchdowns, and then the interception. You're trying to make a play at the end of the game, whatever. But for the most part, he just didn't. It was almost like the emotion wasn't there. Now, he did save the game for a touchdown drive on that phenomenal third down play he made. 100%. I got to give him that. But I don't know. There's just something, it felt off. I don't know if it was play calling. Something just felt off for Texas last night. And Ohio State was able to physically beat them with 4 guys up front. That simple. And then on the last drive, you're down by 7 on the 1-yard line. Dude, you got a 6'4", 230-pound quarterback. QB sneak it. Jesus Christ. Don't do a toss sweep. We're not the 1980s San Francisco 49ers anymore.
Hey, man, don't be throwing off. Don't make me come over here and punch you, Chuck. Hey, Chuck, punch him.
But listen, am I wrong? We're not under center toss sweeps anymore. Why are you running a toss sweep from under center? Why? On the 1-yard line? If anything, I'll
tell you why.
Yeah. If anything, you're running an under center jet sweep where he's hitting it on the run and he's only 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, not 6. That play really, really irked me.
I'll tell you why, and I think, Chuck, I believe you'll agree with me on this, because I don't think that they felt confident enough that their guys up front were going to whip the defensive line and the linebackers and goal line defense.
But that has nothing to do with it. You don't go under center to do it then. That's my point. You don't go under center toss sweep, because here's why. When you're under center, where does your tailback stand?
Behind the quarterback.
Depth. How deep do they stand?
7 yards.
Toes at 6. So that means your heels are almost at 7. If I'm in the shotgun, he is even with me, and my heels are at 5. So that's a 2-yard difference. So I don't want to hear anything about, no, that was a horrible play call. Dude, I'm fine with a toss sweep. Outside zone. Just do it from the damn shotgun where your guy's 2 yards closer. Don't give the illusion that you're running up the middle when you know you can't. Don't take away half your playbook when you know you can't do it. I agree that they knew they couldn't run up the gut. I agree with that. So then don't even give the illusion you're going to, because now you've taken away your strength.
Wouldn't it be fair, Jonathan, to say that Texas is a shotgun offense and that they're not a up under center offense?
99% of teams nowadays are.
Okay, so saying that, I noticed when they put the camera up top and they showed the replay, and when he got up under center and they lined up the strength of formation to the left, I noticed that Ohio State all came up to the line and crowded the line as if we know you're running this to the outside. Some form of speed option or toss sweep or whatever you're going to do. We can't run it, speed option with Ewers because he's not a threat running the football. But they shot through and got depth, and they took away this, and they
yeah. I mean, well, think about it. Who's your backup quarterback?
Oh, the Manning kid.
Who is 6'4", 225 pounds? Who they all every time he goes in. Oh man, do you know how much this guy squats? Oh my God, you know how much he squats? He's always under a squat rack. Well, they got to find something else to talk about. But if that's your short yardage quarterback, put him in and go QB sneak. 4 straight plays. Who cares? Mm-hmm. If it's 4 straight plays of QB sneak and you get 6 inches every time, in case you're wondering, eventually that's a touchdown. I guess that was my issue, because I feel like, and I'm not saying that he was like, oh, screw it, I give up on this. I just don't feel like Sark, and I love watching Sark call a game. I do. I just don't think I don't think that was his best moment, and we all have those moments. I get it. But that's not the time to not have your best moment. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to I love his creativity. I do. I've been open about that. I love how he gets screens set up. I love how he gets double moves set up in his play action game. That's not the time to get cute. That's the time to say, you came to the University of Texas for a reason, and we're about to play smash mouth football. We're on the 1 yard line. Just like I tell my team, if it's 4th and 1 and I don't ride with my guys to get right up the gut, then I'm not a good coach.
Right. Yeah, that play alone created, the disastrous next play, because, he got stripped of the ball by Sawyer. And, if you would have gone up the middle, you would have kept it right in there. You could have brought in Manning, but, it's a weird situation at Texas with the 2 quarterbacks. And
it felt like it's gotten weirder the past month.
Right. And so, anyhow, with that being said, is that bad play call created the strip and the scoop and score. Yes. And all of a sudden, you went from tying the game late minute to go to now down by 14.
Yeah.
Completely psychological devastation to the Texas Longhorns.
Going from, hey, we got a chance to get a defensive stop, possibly game winning field goal, worst case overtime.
Right.
I think guys, that if you're Texas and Sark, and look, he's gonna, this will haunt him for a while, because
I don't think he's there next year.
If you take away the run at the end of the first half and strip thing, that's an even football game. Maybe Texas even has more points at that point. Well, so it's going to be a tough offseason. So let me ask you guys, I say that to ask you what you guys think before we talk about Ohio State and Notre Dame. Is Texas going to be, all things being equal in the offseason with the portal, but with the people that we know are there, and with Manning definitely going to be their quarterback, is Texas a better football team next year than they are this year? I think the answer is yes. And I think the SEC is going to go, oh, man.
I think there's 2 ways to look at it, because I don't think Sarkisian's there next year.
You're wrong.
I think he's in the NFL. That's just my opinion. I think And I'll take it back. I think there's one NFL spot he'd go to. And it may or may not be 3 hours away from Austin, Texas, and he may or may not have played in that stadium last night. If they don't re-sign Mike McCarthy, I think he's the Dallas Cowboy head coach. That's my opinion, because think about it. Every coach is complaining, and we can talk about this in a minute just because why not? Like UCLA's basketball coach complaining about a lot of stuff. I get it. Why would he want to continue to have to re-recruit? Why would he want to continue to have to go to high school kids, recruit your own kids, recruit the portal, when he can just deal with free agency and he is a hot commodity and he's been in the NFL as a coordinator and has been successful? That's just my opinion. If he's not there, they're not better. If he's there, they have a chance to be better, but it's their offense looks totally different. And the reason why I say that, Manning is a much better athlete than yours, but yours is a better thrower of the football than Manning.
Chucky?
Good point. To add to is that if Sark is there, and again, I don't know, I look at Texas in the last 2 years, they played in 2 semifinals. Now, do they have enough to step that up and make it to the Natty? I mean, how many teams other than, Alabama and Georgia that have gone to back or whatever semifinal? So Texas has been there twice to the semifinal and just doesn't, they just don't have enough to get over that hump to get into the national championship. Maybe next year's that time, because you have to take Texas seriously as long as Sark is there. That they're going to have, maybe next year's the thing where they can kick the door open and make it to the national championship game. With that said, I agree with Jonathan 100%. Yeah, Manning, you don't want to run your quarterback like an option quarterback because, he could get hurt, but he is not a better passer than yours. Now, so you probably taking a step down from the quarterback spot. Now, with all that said, if Sark leaves, I think they step back because look at Alabama. You take a really good coach in DeBoer, and he replaces, he comes in and Alabama has a step back. And with the transfer portal, if Sark leaves, you may have a lot of people transferring. And David and Jonathan, with the transfer portal, I don't see how you can forecast anything next year. You got to sit.
That's the hard part.
I
love their receiver Matthew Golden, but he's gone. Number 2, he's gone. He's a top 10 receiver in the draft. Isaiah Bond, number 7, did say he's coming back. That helps. Their running backs are back, from my understanding. But Manning reminds me a lot of, and this is not a bad comparison, it's just he reminds me a lot of Riley Leonard, a true dual threat. I'm a power runner. I can pull away from him if I have to, but I'm a power runner guy. And I can throw the ball, but I'm not going to be asked to drop back 35 times to throw it.
He reminds me of his grandfather.
But you know what I'm saying? Like
I'm old enough to remember.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to drop back in today's world and beat you 35 times or have to drop back 35, 40 times to beat you. But if it's 21, 22, and then there's 10 quarterback runs, now he's dangerous.
Because I'll tell you, and if you take Archie and you put him on any of those playoff teams back when he was in his prime, he's got multiple Super Bowls. He was really good on a crappy, disgustingly bad organization and football team. He was that good. At least I think so.
I'll just say this, though. If you Google Sarkisian NFL last night, as soon as the game ended last night, multiple articles coming out. Over the next few weeks, Steve Sarkisian will inquire about multiple NFL interest jobs. I think he's gone. That's just my opinion.
It's going to be interesting.
For the game of college football, I hope he doesn't.
Yeah.
I'll say it that way. But I know he's got to do what he's got to do. So to answer your question, if he's back, I do think they got a chance to be better than they are this year. I don't know their schedule. I haven't looked it up. I have no idea.
They open up with Ohio State, I think.
I think they do. I think you're right on that. But like I'm talking about like the conference schedule. I don't know if they've got Alabama, Auburn, LSU. I have no idea. And that takes, you know how it is. Same thing in all these conferences now, where there's no East and West or North and South and all that. It's just you're playing whoever they say you're playing outside of like 2 or 3 that are guarantees. So you're not. We don't know like old school Tennessee. We knew that it was Georgia, Florida, Vandy. Like you knew who. Now I have to Google it because I don't know since there's no conference size, I guess you would say.
Notre Dame, Ohio State. I don't know all the betting. I'm not, again, you two are the betting. No, you know about the betting stuff. But right at this one here on ESPN, they've opened it a 9.5-point favorite. I will say this. After the defeat to Northern Illinois, I remember on our show, we said it's ridiculous. I said it, and I think Chuck said it too. Man, this is bad. These guys, they need to find a coach. They need to redo their program. They need to do all this stuff. And when you're wrong, for me, when you're wrong, you look in the mirror. You say, "Hey, man, I made a mistake." This coach in the culture that he has there right now, this season, I tip my hat. I think
Here's your question.
I think they have a chance. I don't, they are a definite they have a chance, in my opinion, to win this football game. Probably not good, but they're going to compete their butts off.
Oh, I'm gonna ask a question after I say this though. I was very adamant about Ohio State being the best team in the country, blah, blah, blah. Roster-wise, they are. But after sleeping on it and realizing that Texas showed the key to stopping Ohio State's offense, Notre Dame's secondary is better than Texas's secondary.
Yes.
Okay? Now, Notre Dame's front four is not as good as Texas's front four. I will say that. If they take away Jeremiah Smith, like Texas did, and they have a game plan to take him away, Notre Dame wins this ballgame. Because he's there. Because last night, and I'm not saying I was right, and I'm not saying I was wrong, because I will say I was half right in the sense of Egbuka and Tate having to step up, but neither one of them scored a touchdown. That's where it's the other half is. They did step up, but they didn't get in the end zone. They did step up, but everything was 12 and under. Where Jeremiah Smith is there, take the top off. You're my big play dude. You are supposed to be my go-to day you stepped on campus. And Texas took him away. Kudos to Texas. If Notre Dame can mimic that off or that defense, because they scored 28. Their offense only scored 21, and it was 2 rushes and a screen. So the receivers did not take them away. They take him away, Notre Dame wins this ball game because Notre Dame will play ball control up front. Now, the thing that's going to hurt Notre Dame is Notre Dame is beat to crap on their own offensive line. They are beat up, and Ohio State's front four is good. So I see this one being a slugfest. It'll be fun to watch, but I'm changing my pick. I'm going Notre Dame. I am. I'm riding. But I would say that to say, here's my question. Because I remember both of you were very adamant against this early in the year. Both of you were very critical.
Who, us?
Of this coach for doing this. And because they made a big media stink out of it. We don't know the details of it because we're not in South Bend, Indiana. Is it going to become a norm? Because look, Notre Dame, hey, Northern Illinois, good for them. But remember, they made that big media stink about it. That Northern Illinois coach, he did ESPN interviews on how he told Freeman all the things that they game planned against him, how his flaws, blah blah blah. Well, now he's about to be on a 14-game win streak after that. Is that going to become a norm? You see what I'm getting at? Is that going to become a norm to say, "Hey, I'm man enough to admit I need to know what my weaknesses was that you looked at," instead of sitting there going, "I'm all big bad Notre Dame." I don't know. I'm asking that question. Is that going to become a norm between people in the profession by going, now listen, Alabama, Tennessee, that ain't become the norm between them. Notre Dame, USC, that won't be the norm. You know what I'm saying? It won't be like rivals, not a chance. But if it's a team that's like, we're not in the same conference and you have a chance at a conference title or a national title or a playoff berth or whatever, and I know my team doesn't because I am in the group of 5 or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Is that going to be the norm? Because, Notre Dame hadn't been in a national championship game in a decade or over a decade. Brian Kelly left Notre Dame because he said you can't win, you can't beat the SEC, and you can't play in a national championship at Notre Dame. 3 years later, Notre Dame's there. Well, Marcus Freeman's the only one that's had enough intestinal fortitude to say, what did you game plan? What was my tips? What were my weaknesses that you attacked? 13 games later, it's in a national championship game. That I find it interesting.
That's one hell of an observation. I don't have an answer for it. We'll soon find. We'll find out in the years.
Yeah.
But I was critical of it.
Oh, I was too. Trust me, I was too. Because I'm sitting there going, I ain't calling nobody saying, "Well, what did you?"
Right.
Like
what that's like. That's like you calling Ricky Brindley over at Pisgah, going, "Let me tell you where your tips were after beating them," or vice versa. Ricky calling, "Let me tell you how we beat you."
Never gonna happen.
Do that, but it was done. Very critical that I was, but that is an observation. I don't have an answer for. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if that. I'm just asking. It's a hypothetical, but I think it's each individual coach, but I think we may see more coaches doing that. Now, granted, not in the ESPN spotlight, obviously, like this one was.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we could see more and more of that at that level because let's call it like it is. Guys, at that point, Notre Dame, we're all going, guys, they may fire him. They may fire Marcus Freeman if he doesn't win the next couple of games because you lost to Northern Illinois. And the next thing you know, you blink your eye and they're in the national championship game. Because remember, they also went, 5 weeks or something like that early on in the year that Riley Leonard did not throw a touchdown pass.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't get his first touchdown pass till like week 6 or something crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And they were still winning ball games. Like they're hard to count out is what I'm getting at. And
I think it's going to be, I would be shocked because I've said all year, and if you go back and you rewatch everything we've done, their back 7 is the best in the country. I don't care. You name a team, you name a program. I think Notre Dame's back 7 is better than anybody in the country. You have a chance.
Played really well last night, though.
You have a chance to compete when you attack the football. You have a chance to compete when you defend the ball in the air. Now, the question that I have for you two is you are more detail oriented on the actual individual players than I am, because basically I love to watch the games and and I used to know details about stuff, but I'm disgusted at the fact that the way that the state of college athletics. So sometimes I let that disgust get into doing a better job of what I should do. But can Notre Dame's corners defend as well as the Texas corners, the Ohio State wide receivers, and the Smith youngster in particular? I think that is the question that I want to ask, because I don't know I don't know if they can defend one-on-one as well as Texas did, but I know as a group, they're good.
I would say the guy to watch for me is, it's Christian Gray, number 29 from Notre Dame. One that got the interception with 20, whatever, 30, 40, whatever seconds that was against Penn State. heck, if I'm not mistaken, he had two of the three, if not three, all three of the picks the other night, even though two of them were called back. If you watch him, even just going all the way back to as close, like calendar-wise, as the USC game, he may be one of the top 5 corners in the country. Just in all honesty, he's a sophomore, so he's got to come back. The acrobatic interception, 100-yard pick six he had against USC, everybody goes, oh my God. And I think for me, at least, that put him on the map with me. They are. He's the guy that if I'm them, I'm matching up on Smith and going, you're going to get tested early. You're going to have to go make a play. I'm not saying you're going to be one-on-one. We'll give you a safety over the top, but you can't get beat deep like crazy early in the game. He's the one to watch because if you noticed, once again, the other night, he was the one that was always around the ball when that ball was getting intercepted. He's a corner that plays really good, what's called trail technique, where you get in the hip pocket of the receiver and you literally try to stay a half a step behind him so you can, whenever they break in or out, whatever, you are trying to trail and undercut the routes. So it makes the quarterback have to throw a perfect ball. When you're playing trail technique, which they will, because they did on Notre Dame did on the pick to seal the game or to secure the game for them against Penn State, it means you're playing 2 high safeties and you're playing 2 man. Well, the negative of doing that is nobody's got the quarterback. Nobody. That's the risky part of it. But I don't see Howard trying to be like Riley Leonard would take off. I don't see Will Howard being the dude just try to take off and run. So I think I do think they're going to play a crap load, I would, of 2 man and make him throw perfect corner routes and deep out routes because I don't know if he can do it. I don't. He's really good at throwing. He's really good at putting it in a spot for them to make a play. But if you got to make the perfect throw, all it takes is one mistake to change the game.
Chuck, talk to me about what you think about what I asked.
I think that they can. 9 days away, it's sort of like, let's see how this, what information we get. Here's what my observation is. I felt that Texas's secondary took Jeremiah Smith out from the first play. When he had 3 targets and 0 catches, he was pouting and he wasn't running his routes. It wasn't that, and then I'm gonna say this, and you're gonna like for a second. Jeremiah Smith took his own self out of the ball game early, and then it wasn't hard to take him out. Yeah. They locked him in with bracket coverage. Even one time or several times, I saw it was just one-on-one coverage. The more they played the game, and the more Jeremiah Smith, as great as he is, pouted that he wasn't getting the ball and getting receptions because he started to believe all this stuff from the Rose Bowl that I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. He took himself out of the ball game. So now you can go back and look at Carnell Tate and Ibuka and all them taking them out of the ball game. I was shocked at the number of drop passes out of Ohio State. But if you want to take the passing game away, and I know they got great receivers, you lock in and do what you have to do early to take Jeremiah Smith or stop Jeremiah Smith from touching the football. He'll take himself out of the ball game.
So let me be my own devil's advocate for us then. What we saw last night offensively from Ohio State, was it because Texas is just really good?
Yeah. I thought Texas played the best game they could on the defensive side of the football.
I agree.
Give them credit. These guys.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Well, statistically, Texas has the top 3 defense in the country. And they're good. Don't get me wrong. But it's been more of a we stop the run defense, not we control. We can stop you through the air defense, and they did both last night. I mean, for the most part, you know what I'm saying? Because here's the thing: if I'm gonna stop your go-to dude, like I'm gonna stop your game changer, I got to be willing to concede something, right? I have to. Well, they conceded Tate and Igbuka going, we don't know if both of you will beat us. You may get yards on us. We'll concede yardage, but we won't concede big plays, momentum-changing plays, touchdowns. And that's what happened. Don't wrong. I would take Igbuka and Tate on any team at any moment. I would. But it was evident that their touchdown threat is Smith. It was evident last night because their only touchdown pass was a screen pass behind the line of scrimmage that the lineman got out and did a phenomenal job blocking on secondary guys. That simple. That was their only touchdown pass.
Texas took away the deep passing. You're not going to throw it deep on us. We're going to lock in your main guy. Maybe they saw something. Maybe they said, hey, wait a minute. We've taken him out of the ball game and he's pouting, but Texas's defense came to play and they pressured Billy Howard. And I think Billy and the quarterbacks for Notre Dame and Ohio State are marginally average, but they got great talent around them. So it will be interesting to see how Notre Dame tries to take Jeremiah Smith or if they'll or try and stop somebody else. I thought the tight end got a lot of targets. But here's the one thing that I noticed, having been loving this rivalry between Michigan and Ohio State and knowing Ohio State, is that I saw – this is where I was critical of Chip Kelly. If they line up doubles or twins or trips to the left, one of those receivers is coming across a crossing route about 5 yards. Everybody else is going to go intermediate and deep. Or a tight end's going to do it. They ran 4 of those crossing routes. That's their bread and butter of their passing game. If you want to take away the deep passes, we're going to hit this wide open crossing route. And we're going to let him get in space and get all he can get. So that is Ohio State's bread and butter of their passing game, and they rarely use that in crossing routes. You can guarantee twins and trips on the left, one of them's coming crossing route. And how do you defend that when you're so dang worried about intermediate routes and everything? So, or single on the right hand.
Like I said, 2-man.
Yeah, coming across. Now, the cover 2 gave Ohio State fits for what they wanted to do. And then it was like, I was trying to figure out, they were lining up with two high safeties, and then that's at Tampa Bay where a guy in the middle, but I didn't see him going back. So they had a defensive game plan that gave Ohio State fits. Now, will Notre Dame do that? They have the personnel to line up and play Ohio State, honestly. So it's going to, for me, guys, for me, it's like trying to choose between Stalin and Hitler from my perspective of this northern rivalry. I mean, I'm serious.
I get it.
It's like, oh, good gracious, for the love of God. I'll have to watch it. Last night, Angie asked me that. She said, what are you doing? You watching this game? It's Ohio State, because I never watch Ohio State. And this second time, she said, you all right? I goes, yeah, I got to watch it for the podcast. We'll probably have one tomorrow.
Yep.
But I sat there just, quiet, but sitting there wondering, come on, Texas, please.
But
it'll get interesting. I think it'll be a good game. I'm picking Notre Dame. I changed my pick.
And you can change it again before,
Yeah.
Before.
Well, now, granted, here's the thing. I've only been wrong on 2 games all 2 picks the whole time.
Okay, that's enough of that. Enough of that.
I'm going Notre Dame.
Now listen, when we go out to Las Vegas, you can't gamble, but we can. And you'll have to give us and your picks better be golden like they are this playoff too.
Yeah.
They
So,
need to.
I'm going to change subject a little bit.
All right.
For next week on our regular show, I'm going to ask you guys a question, and then I just need your answer so I'll know how to proceed. We never talk about the NFL on here ever because I don't think any of us really watch it much.
It's not as fun.
Do you guys want to delve into the NFL playoffs as we go forward from now to the Super Bowl? Just tell me yes or no, and I know how to proceed.
I could care less.
I don't watch the NFL.
Okay. I don't either. So
okay, so that's what I need to know. Now, I'm moving in another direction. Let me see here. Let me look at something real quick. Nick, Jonathan, you see Nick?
Yeah.
Anyone but Ohio State. Even, does that include the Irish, Nick? Come on, man. I'm with you. College basketball, men's college basketball. I grew up in a time when the ACC, again, UCLA would win the national championship basically every year from when I was a little kid up until I was, early teens. But I don't think that counts. Love you too, man. We love and miss you. But I don't think that counts overall. ACC basketball was everything. Everything. Jefferson Pilot telecast. Craig, Craig's pulling for Notre Dame. Jonathan, your godfather is pulling for Notre Dame. It pains me to look at the ACC right now and go, when you look at the rankings, and I know that rankings don't mean a lot, but they mean more in basketball than they sure do in football. The ACC has one ranked team. Let me repeat that. The Atlantic Coast Conference, the home of Dean Smith, the home of Lefty Driesell, the home of basketball royalty from David Thompson, the greatest college basketball player, the second greatest college basketball player that ever lived behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, in my opinion. The home of everything that was college basketball has one ranked.
I get it. All right, so here's the thing, and this is where I get on you and Chuck all the time. Times change.
I don't care.
No. But here, you see what I'm getting? Hey, no, because trust me, it hurts me in the same thing to go. I grew up in an era where Alabama football was boo-boo. If you went to Alabama, you were second fiddle. When Alabama called our house and Alabama tried to come visit our school, I was like, buddy, you're Alabama. You're lucky if you win 4 to 5 games a year. Times change. I'm with you. To me, you think of the best basketball conference in the world, you think of ACC. I agree. Times change. Who's got the most money? It's called like it is. Who's got the most money? It ain't the ACC. And now it's proven because now they can do that stuff. The only, you know what I'm saying? And that's the way that I look at it. The kids that go to Duke, the kids that go to Duke that play know they're one and done. If you are a fourth-year starter at Duke, you're not getting drafted high, and you know that. If you go to Duke, like this Cooper Flagg kid, he's going to be the first pick in the draft. He ain't coming back to Duke next year, guys. You know what I'm saying? Like that at Carolina, though, it's typically not that way. They stay 3, 4 years, 5 years. All right. So they're going to have the little ebbs and flows at UNC rather than Duke, because Duke's going to get the top 5 draft kids, but then aren't eligible to go to the draft because they're in high school. They just want to do one and done. Carolina, you don't do that. That's where. I mean, I agree with you. It is weird that only one team, and it's Duke, that's ranked.
Oh, it's painful.
But it's the fact of times change. This is not the 90s ACC no more. This is not the early 2000s ACC. Because I promise you, when I was in school, SEC basketball was garbage outside Kentucky. You went to SEC back then in basketball, you were like, you're a good player. But you weren't. You know the only team that was going to the Final Four was Kentucky. That was it. Like you knew that. Now you look at it and you go, hey, if you go to Wake Forest, or if you go to NC State, or you go to Syracuse, and because Syracuse used to be a powerhouse in the Big East, powerhouse. I remember watching that Syracuse, Connecticut, like 12 overtime game or whatever it was. It was ridiculous when I was in college. It was one of the best basketball games ever. It ain't that way no more. Now it's who's got the most money, who can pay me the most, and I'll go to your school. Typically, keyword typically, who typically has the most in every sport? SEC and Big Ten typically have the most money, which is what it is. Connecticut's going to have some stuff in basketball because it's a basketball school, and they're going to go there for the rich tradition. But if you notice, the girls' teams are starting. The girls' basketball team they're good, but they're not what they used to be. Oh, because SEC can pay them now. Look at South Carolina. See what I'm getting? Like, so I know what you're saying,
Okay,
but
hold on a second. I want to get back to Chuck. You now live in the middle of Tobacco Road,
Right.
okay? And the Big Four was always Carolina, Duke, Wake, and State. What is so when the question I want to ask you is, what is the state of the people? Are they just apathetic that, hey, it is what it is? We've got some teams that are going to get in the tournament, but we don't have, Duke is elite and Carolina is no longer elite, and everybody else is going to be below unless something happens. What is the state on the streets of? I know how it is here because everybody here is just talking about Tennessee basketball, men's and women's, and I get it, and I do too, and go Vols and all that stuff. But what is the state in the heart of the ACC country of the people of the real, not people that are just blowhard big mouth idiots, but people like Packer and people like real journalists and people that are ACC people?
First of all, on ACCPM, Mark Packer is an anti-Feinbaum. He just tells it like it is. If you're good, you're good. If you're not, you're not. And he says that you want to be, you got to have to recruit the players, and you're going to have to get better, because you have got to start winning those games once you go out, in your conference, beating the teams that you're supposed to beat, not losing to them. Now, as far as the fan base, so they listen to Packer, and Packer tells the truth. So the ACC has declined so much; it's so bad. It's an apathy amongst the fan base because they don't know how to fix it. And if you were to deal with night and day, is if you look at the SEC and their conference decline, they're pissed. There's a difference. Now you've got the ACC or the SEC. Look at all the teams. I think 6 teams in the top 10 and 9 teams ranked. I mean, I don't care if Tennessee got beat by 30 on the road. I mean, look, this conference is turned in. So what is the blueprint? How did they do it? I don't know. I said to my wife last night that I said pretty soon I'll be watching the History Channel and doing research and reading. We'll watch 90 Day Fiance or whatever. She said, why is that? And I said, because college football is over with. I don't watch NFL. And I don't watch basketball of any kind. But from just watching and observing and watching the different conference shows, there's apathy. I believe the word that you used was apathy. I think that's correct for the ACC. I don't think there's any apathy in the SEC. SEC's, whatever they're not good in, they're wanting to be good in. There's a lot more pride in the SEC than the ACC. Now, the Big Ten, that's a different thing, because the Big Ten, they also on the Big Ten network are straightforward. They got 18 teams, so they can always pick and choose who they want. But The Big Ten has dropped also in basketball, at the level of basketball they're playing. So down here in Tobacco Road, it's apathy, my opinion.
But
because
here's the thing. Well, no, but am I wrong?
No, I'm not.
Because think about it.
Saying that. Absolutely, I agree.
No, I know, but watch. I'm going to prove the point of what I'm getting at, though. We'll use the SEC in football and the ACC in basketball. Once again, I won't say it on here because not a lot of people know. But I can tell you, and people want to know. I'll tell you, I don't care. It don't matter to me. I'm 37 years old.
Place to say it.
Well, I'm grown. I can say what I want. I'm not going to, but I'm just saying.
Okay.
They all lie, cheat, and steal. Trust me, Nick Saban was offering a lot of money in 2002 and 3. So I'm not stupid. I also know people, a lot of players. Hell, Tennessee did it. Every team did it back then. Now that it's legal, you see every other team being able to go out there and find money because not every team's boosters were willing to do that. Well, they were, but not to the extent as the SEC. We'll say it that way. Same thing in basketball. Look back in the day when Carolina was winning natties. Their kids were getting paid and not going to class because they could go to Carolina and do it. Not every team, not every school was like, hey, we're not going to do this, blah, blah, blah. Now that it's legal, it levels out because now they can go, well, who's my highest bidder? All I got to do, because there's so many horror stories of this now, of literally kids like that. Is it Judkins from Ohio State?
Yeah.
There are actual stories, published stories of this kid going at Ole Miss. Yeah, I had a good game. I'm gonna need more money, or I'm gonna sit out next week. Plain and simple. Pay me more money right now, or I'm not gonna play next week because I had a stellar game, or I'm gonna leave. So they finally let him leave. That's why the ACC is where they're at in basketball. Like the SEC is starting to level out in football because all these other schools can now legally go, what do you want? How much do you want? We'll pay it. We'll get it. Michigan just paid $12 million for an 18-year-old quarterback who's never taken a college snap. That's why, in my opinion, the ACC is going where they are in basketball because the SEC's got almost – not every school, obviously. I'm just using conference generics. There's 2 conferences that almost have blank checkbooks. The SEC has more schools with blank checks than the Big Ten, but it's these 2 conferences. You got Ohio State, blank checks. Michigan got blank checks. Penn State really does. They don't use it as much. You know what I'm saying? You got Alabama, blank checks. Tennessee, yep. Georgia, yep. Auburn, yeah. Florida, not as much as people think. But, you know, like from the top tier, Texas, yeah. A&M, yeah. Like where they can just say, what do you want? Okay, we only get a $20 million salary cap, but we got collectives and we got this, and this. We make it happen. That's the reason why I think the ACC's fallen off in basketball, but it's been a drastic fall off. The right. SEC in football has been like they were here and everybody was here. Now it's just slowly getting here. It went from ACC and everybody to literally plummeted in 2 years in basketball.
No argument, Jonathan. I think you're spot on this analysis. And I don't know what the solution is, for people that love ACC basketball. I don't know what to tell you. I can tell you
it's tough.
Down off the mountain, down here in the Piedmont, down in Tobacco Road.
Yeah.
Extremely apathy.
Like I said, I'm trust me, I was the one arguing with you guys saying the ACC still better than the SEC in basketball. And y'all both are like, get your head out of your rear end. They're not. And I'm like, come on, yeah, they are. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm an ACC basketball guy too, outside of Tennessee, obviously. But that's just my thing. I think it's just because of everybody. It's legal now. Everybody's able to just go out there and find their own money and do this and that. I'm not saying I agree with it. I know the fix, and we've talked about this before. I know how it'll go and how it has to go eventually, but we're on our way there to what I've been saying for the last 8 years about how very quick synopsis that, and Chuck, we've talked about this off air before. The hard part to figure out is about going to class in this part. But if they could figure that out, they could. But from the layman's terms, all 32 NFL teams are going to end up picking the top. Like they'll take the top 32 football teams. I've already written them out too, by the way. I got bored one day. And affiliating with an NFL team. Then after that's the trial run, then basketball will pick their 30 teams. Baseball will pick their 30 teams. And then the rest will be back to the old NCAA, where no NIL, no transfer, that stuff, because otherwise if it keeps going down this way it's going and there is no change. And side note, I have been very adamant about players should be able to make money. Now, what they're making, no, not a chance. Not a chance they should be doing that, because old buddy Carson Beck just got a $4 million deal from Miami. He's going to make more than like 8 or 9 starting quarterbacks in the NFL next year. But if it keeps going down this way without going to these 32 and these 30 and these 30 are professional, it's going to implode, and the college sports will cease to exist. I mean, it's just what it is.
Now, I want to change because you guys have no idea what I'm fixing to talk about. I want to talk about sports without all the garbage.
I don't know what I'm about to talk about. Let's just call it like it is.
So we're going to talk about baseball for a minute. First of all, pitchers and catchers report in 29 days at certain places. And don't sleep on the Orioles, don't sleep on the Tigers, and don't sleep on the Reds, because that's the 3 teams we're going to have as our futures this year. So that being said, I've thought about this for a couple of weeks to talk to you guys about. And I'm going to mention names. I'm going to talk about these players, and all I want you to do is tell me if you thought they were underrated or overrated or where they need to be. And because I love to talk about great baseball players. Okay, so the first player that I'm going to say is Brooks Robinson, and there was no way he was overrated, and that's under penalty of death to you two. No. But Brooks Robinson, overrated, underrated, or where he should have been?
I'm going to say he should have been where he had been. I don't think he was neither under or overrated. I think he was a great player, and he was rated a great player.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with
that. Reggie Jackson.
I'll just piss everybody off. Overrated.
Oh, dear God. No. Good. Jonathan?
Oh, no, I think he's where he's supposed to be. I mean, I think he's an all-time great, but I do think there are ones that are better.
Yeah, and he was, to me, I still think he was a little underrated, because I'll tell you. No, look, let me tell you this, and this is the truth. I went in the military, had to go to California in 1980. I want to say 5. And I ended up going to Anaheim Stadium by myself to watch them, the Angels play. And it was a midweek game. And that was before they renovated the stadium. And it was just a big 65,000 seat stadium that was just, there wasn't much to it. And they were playing the Cleveland Indians, who at that time were horrible. And the game was just a baseball game, even though it was a major league game I was at. But I will tell you, every time they said batting for the California Angels at that time, number 44, Reggie Jackson, everybody went to the edge of the stadium changed. All 4 times he came to bat. And I thought, that's pretty darn cool. Whether he struck out, whatever, because, people paid money to see him. So anyway, Roberto Clemente.
there's a part of me that says Roberto, because at that time he played was a Dominican, was underrated. I sure believe he was undervalued. But once he passed, people then started to realize he was a great, great player. So I think he was underrated for his career.
I agree. Jonathan, do you know enough to make the answer?
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think he's underrated especially for his time. Sorry, I'm looking for my cats. Oh, yeah, for his time, I think he was underrated.
Who in the past? This is going to be one that I know that's going to be tough for everybody to answer. And as time goes on, and the more you realize what this guy did, Tony Gwynn. I think Tony Gwynn, in the heat of what he was doing, he was appreciated and all that. But I think Tony Gwynn was underrated. I think this guy is probably one of the top 5 hitters in the history of this beautiful game. I think he was underrated and undervalued by people. Just read what Greg Maddux says about him. I see both of you thinking real hard.
Well, I'm trying to decide whether, because obviously Gwynn's greatness, you can't say he was overrated. But at the time he played, I'm trying to put myself back in that time. And I would probably say just slightly he was underrated, or and close to being rated because he was ranked or rated as one of the best in the game. But I think they always found somebody else to put in there, and Gwynn was like that second choice. And playing in San Diego at the time, Gwynn I'm going to say slightly underrated.
I'm going where you're supposed to be.
Really? Mm-hmm. I thought you would say underrated. So who is your most overrated baseball player in the past 20 years?
20 years.
And you can include the steroid guys in this. So 30 years that put up false numbers per se.
Most underrated?
No, overrated.
Overrated. Oh, most overrated? Sure. Yeah. There's a few.
I got mine.
Go ahead.
Mark McGwire. Everything he did was on steroids. I don't know what he could do naturally. Mark McGwire is my most overrated player.
Mine's going to be – sorry, my cat's screwing my computer. I'm going Barry Bonds. Because what did Barry Bonds do? What did Barry Bonds do before steroids? Don't get me wrong. I know everybody argues and goes, you still got to be able to hit a fastball. I get it. But it also, to me, let's just call it like it is. Tom Brady's not Tom Brady without Bledsoe getting hurt. Otherwise, he's out of the league in 3 years, and he knows that. So, that to me, that was his version, quote unquote, of being able to have steroids was he got a break. If you have steroids and you're putting up numbers, you can still hit a fastball. But that fastball that goes 450 may only go 220, and it's a single, not a home run, and you're not on the cover of ESPN magazine.
Right.
And in that career. That's the way that I look at it. You still got to be able to hit a breaking ball. I get it.
And he was a Hall of Fame player without all that junk.
Without it. But to me, that's why I'm going overrated because – and I'm not being funny, but it's going to sound funny. And I know this is a family show. But they look at Darryl Strawberry. Darryl Strawberry straight up said cocaine was a performance-enhancing drug. He goes, you could see every stitch in the baseball when he did it before a game. So it's the same thing. Okay, yeah, he was doing an illegal drug, but his career was prolonged by 4 or 5 years, in my opinion, because of him doing that. Like he said, he goes, I was so laser-focused. Well, steroids makes the ball go from a normal single, maybe a tweener double in the gap to a 450 home run in the gap now. That's why I say Barry Bonds.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing at all. But and I know that you would, and I kind of thought that you would say that because the one thing that when you are a younger guy, but you were raised baseball wise that understand the glory of Hank Aaron. That was
but
I talked to you and taught you about Hank Aaron all your life.
I mean, I take that back. I could say him, or I could go one more, Alex Rodriguez.
Man,
Alex Rodriguez's whole career, finally had to admit it, his whole career was steroids. He took steroids from the time he was 18 years old. So, like,
let me recap this. I say Mark McGwire. Then when Johnson says Barry Bonds, I went, he's right there. Then he mentions Darryl Strawberry, and I went, he's right there. Then you come with Alex Rodriguez, and I'm thinking A-Rod, and it's like, Most are all, well, because you said the last 20 years is that there's a steroid enhancement of, you can't go wrong with the ones that Johnson just mentioned right there. And, so I said Mark McGwire, but then I jumped, maybe I want Barry Bonds. Then I want Darryl Strawberry, who had all
steroids.
Yeah, all the ability and cocaine ruined his career. So I don't know. I think
I know who would be. I've got to go here in a minute, so I'm gonna ask this, and then I'm gonna tell you something about back to the football part. But who do you think is the most underrated? I already have mine.
Baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton of them, and this is where Chuck and I argue about this. I am not a Yankee fan, but man, I really valued Don Mattingly.
Well, to me, there's only one.
I have two players that have that I think is on that list. One is Lou Whitaker for Detroit.
Yes.
And Darryl Murphy for Atlanta Braves.
Yes, I love them.
To me, there's only one, and Ken Griffey Jr. because of the injuries. If he didn't get injured, he breaks every record known to man. He was the most athletic, power-hitting, non-steroided player to ever play. That's just my opinion.
Well, you just made a friend again because John Taylor in New Jersey is really happy this morning.
If he doesn't jump trying to rob a home run and break his ankle in the wall that first time in Seattle, career is totally different. And don't get me wrong, he still hit a buku amount of home runs.
600.
But he may have hit 900 though. Because think about it, how many years was he like down from injury? 5? Somewhere in the course of his career in that range. To me, just from a all-around game standpoint, I don't think there's been any other player. Everybody always, you feared throwing to Barry Bonds. Well, yeah, because his biceps were 3 times the size of my head because of steroids. You didn't fear Barry Bonds stealing a base. You didn't fear Barry Bonds stretching something into a double or a double into a triple. You didn't fear Barry Bonds going and laying out for one in the gap and being able to also throw you out at home, tagging up from third. All of those things you feared in Ken Griffey Jr. Every one of them. That's my opinion. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's underrated by a lot of people's standpoint. I just think if he doesn't get injured, he goes down as the all-time never being able to be broken greatest.
And I'll say this. When we get off here, there'll be a text in our group text, and Chuck's text will not be to you or to me. It will be to one person in particular in New Jersey. And so he doesn't want him to get a big head about Ken Griffey Jr., and he'll put like a PED and a question mark. And because as good as Jonathan just made Dr. John Taylor feel, Chuck is going to stab him and pull that scab this morning. So anyway,
I still wear the Ken Griffey Jr. shoes. Like he's the all-time just all around. And even if anybody says he didn't have the prettiest swing in the history of baseball, is an idiot. that was the most fluid. Just yeah. I mean, obviously I'm a Ken Griffey Jr. fan, but last thing, real quick, we didn't talk about this in the national championship game. What's going to be the big storyline this week for the next 9 days?
Who transfers out of those two programs is what the biggest story, but there'll be players leave before the game. But that's
that won't be
just
the biggest.
talking off my head.
That won't be the biggest. Where did Marcus Freeman play in 2003? He was an Ohio State starter. He is now coaching in a national championship game against his former alma mater.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I did not know that.
That's actually kind of cool, though. Like that to me, that's really neat. I'll just say it that way. That's really cool.
Like I said, you got to choose between Stalin and Hitler.
Oh, I don't trust me. I don't like either school. I'm with you though.
All right,
and it'll be a good one. Like I said, I'm changing my pick. I'm going Notre Dame.
Well, that's for today. Something tells me before kickoff you'll change again.
I don't think I will. Now, granted, if they both could lose, it'd be phenomenal, but they can't.
Is there any way Tennessee can win, Jonathan? Is there any way they can win this game?
No.
You tried.
No. Hey, what's Notre Dame's best uniform combo? See what y'all think, and then we'll go.
Green.
I like the green jersey.
No, white pants. The white pants, navy jersey, gold helmet. Oh yes, I love that combo.
Mm-hmm.
And
white pants with their blue jerseys. I like that combo. They hardly ever do it, but I think I like that combo. But it'll be a good one. We're looking forward to it.
All right, guys. Everybody, Chuck, are you going to go to the movies? I'm going to, as soon as I get off here, I'm going to go put the truck in 4-wheel drive, and Janet and I are going to get off this mountain.
Man, I'm going to tell you something before we get off. My grandson, the whole time we were talking, he was outside. We have a big, hill on the back, and he was sliding for the first time.
There you go.
Hilarious watching him slide down the hill with his mama on a slide. But we're going. He's itching right now for me to find out if the theaters are open, because I'm gonna take him to.
That's it.
Hedgehog 3.
And stop and get him some chocolate chip mint ice cream. Chocolate chip mint. I am not a big ice cream fan. I like sherbet better, but I have learned that chocolate chip mint is really good.
I get him ice cream whenever I can, but that's been put on because I gave him too much sweets, and his mama loves for him to eat healthy. So I follow mama's rules. Grandpa
has you have exclusive veto rights.
Oh, okay.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Everybody have a good weekend. Be careful driving. Thank you, guys.
All right.
See you.